All right, we have Mycal Anders, aka Coach Durs. Man, we've been friends for a long time. We've hung out quite a bit. We met at Rush Club years and
Yeah.
years ago, and connected, and we've stayed in contact over the years. You've done, I think, one or two of my events, and we've
hmm
had some interesting times together. We've gone deep, super deep together.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
you're also the owner of CrossFit PHX, and you do a lot of training around leadership.
hmm
And also you're in the Marine Corps, and there's a lot to you. I listed off some things, so people go, oh, I should listen to this guy. Um, what else should we know about you uh, right now?
I mean, this year I celebrated 20 years in the fitness industry. Took my first apprenticeship when I was 16 years old in my local Gold's Gym, so I could bypass a gym membership. And throughout my athletic career, my military career, my journey in entrepreneurship, it's been one continuous education in not only business, but more importantly, in my opinion, the school of leadership and what that really means. Um, and to that end, as I've explored the tenets of what it is to be successful, happy, and fulfilled, a huge component of that is being a servant leader and having a piece of your charter somewhere in there, giving back and paying it forward as best you can when those opportunities present themselves if you're not seeking them intentionally. And it's been a hell of a ride, man. And I've just been extremely fortunate along that path to meet and connect with individuals such as yourself who have a very similar mission. And I'm blessed and honored to share some space with you today, man.
Yeah, thank you. And we're going to be talking about leadership today. I think you have experienced it. I've experienced it in the last few months. So we're going to cover things. I'm going to cover COVID,
Mm-hmm.
how things changed for the whole world, and what that meant for leadership in that during that time, which we're still in,
Mm-hmm.
with the death of George Floyd and a lot of uh, civil rights type of conversations coming up. The thing is, civil rights conversation was coming up before this,
Yeah.
in regard to things that were happening with COVID. So there was already some stuff going on there that we can
Yeah.
address. And then also, as there was a huge response in the last couple of weeks around involving Black Lives Matter,
Mm-hmm.
and also a lot of other stuff going on. There's a lot of moving pieces, and it which caused a lot of confusion worldwide.
Yeah.
And I want to discuss all that in regard to how leaders deal with this, how we deal with that, and what maybe, like, I can even talk about what led to decisions to do and not do things.
Mm-hmm.
And then not only that, I reached out to you because I wanted you on the show. And then right afterwards, there was the CrossFit implosion with Greg Glassman. So we're going to dig into that because, being a CrossFit box owner,
Yeah.
there's something to be discussed there. So how let's start at the beginning.
mm-hmm.
Well, let's do this. What's most present for you right now, as far as, man, like uh what is it? What's occupying your mind space right now?
I think the conversation around race is top of the list, hands down. Matter of fact, um, uh, where to start? I'll start with a story. So my father uh, uh, is was a black man. My mother's white, and my dad grew up in the movement. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, civil rights, Black Panthers, the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
So he was very much an activist. He's a Vietnam veteran. For the vets to watch this show, he's a Mustang. So he enlisted to get college paid for by Uncle Sam, put himself through law school, became a judge advocate general, and then moved into private practice criminal defense after he retired. My roots are found in entrepreneurship as well as the military. So I come by that part of my storyline very honestly. And my dad passed in 2007, and I can remember when I was a kid when the Rodney King LA riots uh, started. His whole message to his 4 black sons was, you know, don't don't give the police an excuse to interrupt your life. And in the unfortunate circumstance that your life is interrupted, right? You need to do whatever it takes for you to make it home. And by no means was he endorsing tolerance of any kind when it comes to police brutality or anything like that. But now that I am a dad, those words really ring true from the standpoint that I've got skin in the game. If I put myself in a situation where the potential for police brutality to take place, right? Who's going to raise my kids, right? We've seen that in the Black community for a really long time, especially when, if you look at the disproportionate population of African Americans in prison, and one of the things that plagues Black America is the lack of fathers in the home, and these things. It's very prevalent in my mind right now what those words actually mean. But he's been gone for almost a decade, and here we are in the wake of the George Floyd situation. And so I reached out to 2 very influential men in my life who were my dad's best friends, and I just asked them. I was like, "What do you think my dad would be doing right now?" And they said, in 2 very separate conversations, he would use his resources, his platform, and his position to ask tough questions, create the conversation, and impart change as best he could within arm's reach. And I honestly think that that's where this whole thing begins and ends. Nobody's going to get elected. No policy is going to be put in place. No law is going to be imparted that is going to change this thing tomorrow. And to that end, I think the best place to start is to just create a safe space for the conversation to take place. I think that we've all experienced this conversation on some level with people whose opinion or feelings around it we already know. So we say the things knowing the response that we're going to get, and then it kind of just goes nowhere. So to the guidance that my 2 godfathers said about what my dad would be doing right now, we're opening up the gym tonight for a town hall meeting where our members can come in a safe place, in a diverse environment, and just have the conversation. I have no idea where it's going to go. I don't have any intention of solving the problem this evening. All I'm looking for is for people to walk out of here tonight with a greater understanding of who we are, where we come from, and where we're going, and also just a deeper appreciation for each other as human beings. And I feel like if we do that and build that into our charter somewhere along the way, like if this racism epidemic, whatever, unfortunately isn't going to be solved in our time. But this conversation is the foundation so that my kids don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. A lot of I've been learning a lot in the last couple of weeks. This all went down, and I started interviewing people and listening and
Mhm.
watching, and I'm following new people on Instagram I wasn't following before,
Mhm.
and it can be difficult because I'm looking at it and I'm going, okay, because and especially as we get older, it's like, oh,
Mhm.
I know how this works. You know, I know how the world's working. Like I got my own perspective, this and that, and you know, I'm originally from the South, you know, Memphis, Tennessee, and I grew up in a very um, it was diverse
Mhm.
crowd growing up, and which was a really beautiful experience. But then move out to the West Coast, and it's almost like I forget. Uh,
Mhm.
it's like it's mostly white, and I'm just kind of going about my life, and I'm working, and I'm doing all this stuff, and then this comes up, and I go, wow, this I remember these conversations coming up amongst my black friends, and then telling me I don't understand, and so for somebody who was, you know, grew up in that environment, and then just like being told I don't understand, and then just which caused for me a lot of just going, okay, fine, and then moving on. Because I mean, if you tell somebody they don't understand, they're
Mhm.
gonna stop listening. Like I
Sure.
can witness it with people in conversation. You don't understand, it's automatically like goes up.
Mhm.
No excuse, but that's just something I
Yeah.
think people could look out for when they're trying to communicate whatever is
Sure.
going on for them. But this has brought a whole new thing, and just watching all of this unfold, I spent like the first week going, I don't know what to fucking do. Like
Mhm.
I need to collect information. I felt
Yeah.
overwhelmed. It was
Sure.
I'm sitting there. I'm really fortunate that I have the ability to sit and consume information. Most people
Mhm.
have to work or they've got family and they got all this stuff. I don't have any, you know, like I have the ability to sit and try to grok something.
Yeah.
And I sat there and it was just, I felt this desire to do something. I was like, oh, I got to do
Mhm.
something. And then, but then another part of me stepping in and go, but you don't know what to do. Uh,
Mhm.
and I'm really, you know, I post to social media constantly, right?
Yeah.
It's like, fuck, man, what do I post here that's actually going to be
Mhm.
helpful? Because what I was
Sure.
witnessing was a lot of people posting, and I'm going, it doesn't feel helpful. Like when I see that, like I'm not sure that's actually improving or
Mhm.
elevating the conversation.
Right.
And so it's just, and there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure coming in
Sure.
for, you know, if you're not saying something, then you're wrong.
Right.
And it's like, okay, what's like, you know, what's the right thing to do here? So
Mhm.
where I got to that is just acknowledgement. Is like just
Mhm.
acknowledge like, hey, this is new to me. This is I also acknowledge that this is a perspective I've never seen before, and I'm taking it
Sure.
in, and Black lives do matter. And
You're right.
I don't know what else to do beyond that. And so that's where I
Yeah.
was a week ago.
Mhm.
What was it like for you as this was unraveling, and like did you did you get
Well,
any pressure from the outside, or did you feel pressure from the inside on this topic?
I mean, I think we all felt pressure of some sort. Where I felt the most pressure. Um, that's I don't even think that's accurate. Um, where I felt called to
Mm-hmm.
action, I guess that's a better way to put it,
Mm-hmm.
is to be a resource for anybody, white or black, to have the conversation. I feel like I'm fortunate enough to have lived a very multicultural existence. Not only am I biracial, black and white, but I've spent half my life overseas and just been exposed to legitimate diversity on every level. And I feel particularly open, despite whatever biases I may have, to just at the very least be a sounding board for people to check in with themselves. What I found through quarantine is that you were everybody was very susceptible to confirmation bias, and you're able to fall in love with whatever conscious and subconscious thought patterns and belief systems you have, and with no threat of disconfirming information. So a lot of the dialogue I've had with people is based around the context of this need for understanding, and to which I immediately ask, and it's a really hard question to answer, and I understand that, but I ask it intentionally. When somebody says, "Well, I just want to understand," I feel obligated to respond with, "What is it that you think you don't know?" And that is not a judgmental question. It's a request for reflection. Like what is the blind spot? What is the awareness that you feel like you're lacking? What is the thing that you've chosen to ignore? That's also a very real possibility. Is that everybody's reality? No, but it's really opened the door to some very open and honest conversation. And I feel that it's been extremely productive in that regard. I feel like a lot of people are stuck in what to do. They think that the problem is so huge, kind of like my vote doesn't count type shit.
Yep.
But it does, like what I like to call the daisy chain of paying it forward and reciprocity. And if we just reach out and create an opportunity, or when the opportunity presents itself to just lift another human being up, right? The potential for them to pay that forward, that becomes a living thing. And yeah. I know based on my experience with you early on in the existence of CrossFit PHX has really kickstarted that mentality, or taken it to another level for me. And this has become a vehicle for that change, and to live and exist in the change that you want to see. And it's really, I feel like, based on when me and whoever parted ways after that conversation, there was this like the weight was taken off their shoulders, and it's like, okay, I just, each one teach one. If you make it, we all make it. That, like, all of that is so real right now. And people are now going out and really just trying to help one person, as opposed to helping everybody, which is so monumental and then like almost impossible without help, right? So like that's where a lot of the conversation has kind of rested, once we unpacked biases and experiences and prejudices and stuff like that they may or may not have been aware of.
Yeah. I like what you said at the very beginning. Like, you felt called to it, not to have, there wasn't pressure about it. It was more of you were called to it. And my experience was of like receiving some external pressure from people, like immediately getting DMs, like, what are you going to do about it? I'm like, I'm just wrapping my fucking head around it. But then getting to a point where, like, yeah, if you're acting out of pressure, especially external pressure, or because people are creating shame because you're not doing or saying the thing they want you to do, like, is that really helpful? Like, I think a lot of people are behaving out of, I mean, is that your experience? I mean, of what you see is people like, oh, if I don't do or say something, then people are going to think I'm racist.
Yeah. Well, I see a lot of people, arguing for the same desired outcome. We want racism to die. Right.
Yeah.
Where the shit gets stirred up is in how we do it. Right. So we all agree on the same principle. We're all just, getting lost in the sauce and the method by which we accomplish it.
Yeah.
And, like, I think that there's merit to every argument. I really do. And I think that everybody needs to kind of just lead with their heart and their gut on this one. And then again, it's not a policy, it's not a political figure, it's us, and go do that thing and be that change. And then the rest of it just kind of snowballs. But to get lost in the how and argue about it, should we protest? Yes, we should. Should we donate? Yes, we should. Should we vote? Yes, we should. We should all do all of those things. But do the thing that feels right to you. And don't shame other people for, again, trying to accomplish this magnificent goal their way.
Yeah.
I just felt like there's so much of that right now, because it's not the way that I would do it. It's bullshit. You're wrong. You're doing it inappropriately. You're going about it the wrong way, and then it's that crabs in the bucket thing. I'm trying, I want to educate and elevate. Oh, no, that's not the way I would do it. Shut up.
Yeah.
And we start dampening each other's voices when we're all saying the same thing.
Yeah. So how do you balance? So I know your story, and if people have listened to the interview we've done together, because I've interviewed you before, know your story. Like you were like pull yourself up by your bootstraps kind of guy. Like you didn't have it, like no one handed it to you, right? And so how do we have this conversation where there's a lot of conversation around heard one yesterday. It was like, well, if you're white, you basically had a head start in the race, right? I think it was Billie Jean was putting this on his Instagram. Okay. And if you're black, you basically didn't you ran the first half of the race with one leg or whatever, I think is what he said. Right. And so like there's this idea that like there needs to be something done to even the playing field in that regard. But then there's also the piece of like, how do you balance that or create harmony inside of also taking personal responsibility? Like because I can see how a lot of the finger pointing out of like, I have challenges you don't have because of the color of skin. And then I see that there's some type of danger of people like taking their responsibility and pushing it out to other people instead of taking it for themselves. But I also see that there's real shit that's built into our system that is a problem. Like there are a lot of laws that are that do things like I believe were set up a long time ago to intentionally break up the black family, and there's a real fucking problem here. So how do we balance that conversation when you're a leader, right? You're talking to younger guys and girls, like what do we tell them in regard to, okay, yes, we're working on this problem. Yes, there's a problem outside of ourselves in the system, and there's other people, and we're working to fix that. But also like do the work yourself. Like how do you have that conversation?
So in my adult life, for those of you who know my story, after the Air Force Academy, I had to figure it out. I was blessed with two parents that empowered me to do that, to wear that shit on my shoulders and own that experience. And experience my way out of it, right? But I want to back up. I'm the son of two retired Air Force officers, two college-educated individuals, and my dad was with me my whole life up until he died. I had a lot of things going for me, number one, I had a positive male role model in my life for 18 years, all the way up until I left for the academy. And at the same time, both my parents had an expectation of excellence for all of us. Like my senior year of high school, I wasn't going. My dad had a conversation with my head coach and said that, if I didn't finish a college application every week up until they were due, I wasn't allowed to play. So that's to answer to kind of get to the root of the problem. I had a lot of those things going for me.
Yeah.
Then, and at the academy, I was surrounded by a lot of people who had those same advantages. When I left the academy and went to East Texas State, Texas A&M Commerce, I was with I had a bunch of teammates who didn't have those advantages. And there was a very distinct difference in they were just happy to have made it to college.
Yeah.
As opposed to the expectation I had to go to college. It wasn't like I'm going to graduate high school and figure it out. No, you're taking your ass to school.
Yeah.
And so there's so many layers to this thing. It's a socioeconomic thing. It's a race thing. But how you balance that conversation, holy shit. It's tough because, now I'm 36 now and I got kids of my own, and, I'm running a company, and my parents made a very conscious decision to not only be the examples themselves, but I haven't actually had this conversation with my mom, but I would imagine, based on how I interpret leadership, if they ever felt like they were falling short, they leaned on people they felt were the examples that could teach the lessons that we were probably missing from them, right? And I think that's kind of where it starts. And if you look at, and for me, I found that through athletics, right? Those, overcoming adversity, being exposed to different cultures and socioeconomic statuses, and having that exposure, and then, but what's missing, I think, is access. When you look at the picture of diversity and socioeconomics with regards to athletics, right? At levels lower and lower and lower, athletics is becoming privatized, right? With the exception of probably football, everything is moving towards club, and even in football, you have these high dollar 7-on-7 leagues for skill positions and stuff like that. If you don't have the money, you can't be in the game. And right. You're seeing that with the kids that I coach in softball, in soccer, in tennis, in golf. Like those are all, they're all getting recruited from these club teams.
Yep.
And what they're reporting back to me is college coaches aren't even showing up at high school anymore.
Interesting.
Right. So
yeah, I remember wanting to play club baseball. I have 4 younger siblings,
man.
And I wanted to play, and I went to tryouts. I wanted to go to tryouts. I ended up going to tryouts, and my parents said, "Hey, you can try out, but it's a couple $100 just to try out. But we're not going to pay for that." And I was just like, it's like, oh shit, like,
yeah,
that's because and if you want to get good, you got to get on those teams. You got to play with people who are the best. Right. Yeah.
So it becomes an issue of access to mentorship, access to quality instruction, access to quality guidance. I can remember, like, this is the kind of kid I was. My dad kind of led with, don't be the obvious choice. Don't give them an excuse to interrupt your life, right? I went to a McDonald's interview at 14 years old in slacks and a fucking tie, you know? And the guy interviewing me was like, kid, if you were 4 years older, I'd offer you my job. You don't need to be here. You know, like, so
Yeah.
those, but I only know to be that way because of the examples and the expectations that I had.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And, you know, from generation to generation, if you don't have those examples, if you don't have those expectations set, well, who's going to set them for you at 13 years old? You know, that was the story of a lot of the Marines that were in my charge. You know, the military was their only way out. And there's a very inverse population diversity dynamic between the enlisted corps of any armed service and the officer corps. You know, the officer corps across the board is predominantly white, and the enlisted corps is predominantly minority. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yep.
And, you know, if you talk to a lot of officers, right, they had examples, they had expectations, and this is kind of where they were supposed to end up. Yep. Right? If you talk to a lot of it, you know, my enlisted Marines, you know, a lot of their narrative is this was my only way out.
Yeah.
You
yeah.
know?
When I was in the Navy, I heard that a lot. Mm-hmm. I was one of those guys that were like, I showed up enlisted because I wanted to be there and it was optional and all that. And then I remember running into people, I go, oh shit, like this was a vehicle to escape, or a vehicle to sure. try to better oneself.
To a better life, 100%.
Yeah. You know, and I'm not sure I like the military for that. Like, and people are like, I'm like, why did you join? They're like, oh, the college money. I'm like, you know, there's like other ways to get college money other than going to war, right? Like,
you know, it serves its purpose. I mean, that's what it did for my dad. Yeah. You know, that's what it's done for so many of my Marines. My big brother's about to retire with a master's degree. You know, it can be a vehicle, and it's a noble one. You know. You know, and to that point, you know, that's ultimately what it comes down to, and how you solve that problem. Shit, man, that's a tough nut to crack. But you know, it wasn't until very recently that I really had an appreciation for all the things that I've accomplished and being Black while doing it. You know, I'm one of the youngest African American Eagle Scouts in history, being one of the few Black cadets at the Air Force Academy for the time that I was there, being one of the few and the proud Black officers of the few and the proud Marine Corps, you know, and being one of the few Black CrossFit box owners. You know, it's only recently, as you know, people learn my resume, they're like, dude, like you did all that and you're Black. That's what's up.
Yeah.
And I've been away from coaching high school football from the team standpoint for about 5 years now. And I now have players that went to school and are doing things. A handful of them are opening businesses, and others are in the military and doing the thing. And, you know, they've reached out to me in the wake of all that's going on in society and just said, thank you for being someone who looks like me to set the example that I may or may not have had.
Yeah.
And I've never in my journey, like consciously done anything that I've done on behalf of Black America, but I do embrace, acknowledge what that means to so many people.
Yeah. So in hearing you speak about that, it sounds like there needs to be a greater role in mentorship. It sounds like a one of the steps that could be taken. And you know, when I've been deep into the political conversations online. I'm sick. I'm a fucking masochist. Like, but there's the defund the police. Like
Mm-hmm.
the overall theme I'm hearing from a group is defund the police and spend that money on teachers. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and what I'm hearing from you is like having more mentors involved. And I
Mm-hmm.
just been putting pieces together. I talked to my friend Paris Robinson, who is from the hood and in
Yeah.
Richmond, and he talks about how the police are militarized and coming through, and it's like they dress like they're going to war when they're just coming
Mm-hmm.
through the neighborhood in the United States.
Sure.
And so as I'm putting this all together and I'm thinking about it, I'm like, man, these guys that are coming in looking like they're ready to go to war, if we replace that with people who are coming in to mentor,
Mm-hmm.
know, what could that look like? And maybe
Sure.
teachers in public schools are the answer, maybe not. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not as keen on that. I think there's some type of other option where mentorship happens.
Yeah.
Do you think it's important that the mentors um, be black or of color versus if say a white man wanted to come in and
Mm-hmm.
mentor in an environment where it's low socioeconomic
Mm-hmm.
status and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on that?
I I'd be lying if I told you. I'd be lying and it'd be naive to say that there isn't power in having somebody who looks like you know, come mentor you, right? You have that common ground of your existence. Like I know what it is to be. I I lived the Black experience in America,
Yeah.
right? There's a lot of assumptions, preconceived notions that go with that, and just as well as I do in the work that you've done, both personally and professionally, that there are certain biases that are inherent to the human experience,
Hmm.
where if you were to go mentor a young Black kid, there's the subconscious hurdle of rapport, in that I can't assume that we come from the same place, we've had the same experiences,
Yeah.
right? Now, to that end, I don't think that it's a requisite that, if you're going to a predominantly minority area to mentor, that you need to be a minority yourself. No. Does it help? Sure. But ultimately, as you've experienced and I've experienced, it comes down to delivery.
Yeah.
Yeah, and your ability to manage the human dynamic and create that rapport. And it's definitely a whole lot easier in a one-on-one scenario than it is to stand on stage and try to get your message out to an auditorium of kids that may or may not be interested in
Mm.
what you have to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing when you say that is build connection, like have a real
Mm-hmm.
connection. So even if you
Totally.
look different,
Mm-hmm.
if you can create a real connection with somebody through
Yeah.
listening,
Mm-hmm.
then yeah, that's how you build that rapport. Is people need to be heard and feel understood. They need to at least have the experience of being heard and understood, whether they were
Yeah.
heard or understood. Um, I think a lot of people speak and people are listening to hear and understand, but
Mm-hmm.
fail to be able to make that apparent to the person that's
Yes.
talking, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people think they're being heard and understood, and the other person's totally checked out. But as you build
Yeah.
a relationship, it becomes obvious.
Mm-hmm.
Like first meeting.
Case in point, I've got a kid that I'm mentoring right now. I coached him in high school, and he went on and played a season of JUCO, and for one reason or another, fell out of love with football. So he stops by the gym. It's been 2 years since I've had a conversation with him. He just comes by the gym because he's still in the neighborhood. He's like, "Hey, I want to have a conversation with you." So I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So we, come back in the office and we have a sit down. He's like, "I'm done playing football, and I'm gonna enlist in the Marine Corps." And my initial response was, "The fuck you are." You've got you've already got 3 semesters of college under your belt. The financial burden of college isn't in your way, and to finish your degree gives you way more options than you would have without it, right? Yep. I whether you take advantage of those options, that's completely up to you. But to have options is a fucking gift, right? Yeah. So you're gonna live here at the gym. Essentially, you're gonna help me around the gym. You're gonna work out. You're gonna keep yourself productive, and you're gonna finish school. And now he's in the process of submitting his officer package for the Army. Nice. And that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. Like when I got done coaching him in high school, like life goes on. He went his way and I went mine, and you have no idea how that's going to come full circle, right? But the trajectory of that kid's life is different, and I would say better because of our interaction and my ability to mentor him than it would have been otherwise, because I know that his dad isn't in his life.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. In the grand scheme of society, he's one person, but who knows how many lives he's going to touch.
Yeah.
Right. And that I'm banking on that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Dig it.
Yeah.
Let's dig into
I know you want to ask about the CrossFit thing.
That's what I want to ask about. Yeah, what's up with CrossFit, man? Like I watched the whole thing go down. I'm like, I'm getting text messages and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna check that link out. Oh, interesting. And then it was like a few hours later, oh, something else. Oh, a few hours later, oh, something. I was like, wow, this is incredible. Yeah. So what's your take on it?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, man, I thought the letter that I think her name's Alyssa wrote, the kind of like the first domino that I saw anyway. Yep. I thought it was really well written, and I don't think that it was off base at all. And I feel like, anybody that is under the CrossFit umbrella, was looking for, a statement to affiliate owners or the public at large as to, what the organization was feeling or doing or whatever. And the way it all rolled out was just super interesting to me. It's like Greg Glassman was the Donald Trump of his own organization. It's like, you know what? This is what's on my mind. Bam. And then the very next thing was the PR piece that should have come out. Here's all the nonprofit stuff to do. Here's the schools that we've built in Africa. And that's what they should have led with. And, I don't think that his response to her, as vicious and visceral as it was warranted at all. And I think that, as low as I sit on the economic totem pole that is entrepreneurship, even I don't have the luxury to say all my thoughts, because the public perception, even my members' perception, is that what I say is what the community represents.
Yeah.
And you got to be very conscious of that. And
well, it seems like it was a knee-jerk reaction by him, which
totally,
is
100%,
which is in direct alignment with previous behavior. It's not like, oh, there's a new Greg Glassman. It's like, nah, he responds pretty aggressively, and sometimes I'm wondering if the drinking was involved before tweeting or whatever. But you gotta it's interesting. But it does seem like it was. If you pull out a pen and paper and journal and sleep on something before you put it out, good fucking idea. And I don't think he's doing that.
Well, it was like, the practice of, somebody sends you an email that pisses you off, type
Yeah.
type the email that you want to send, delete that shit, and then send the other one,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Well, and then to follow up with the Floyd 19 comment to whatever health organization that was, that I think they said racism is a pandemic, and then he sent that fucking tweet, and like that was like the cascade.
Yeah.
And what
That
I
that
saw,
that was the thing that just that was the cherry
yeah.
on top. That just
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Yeah.
And then the fallout from the community, I thought was really interesting because by virtue of sitting in this seat as a box owner, you are inherently a leader of a community. And I just witnessed a lot of cut and paste responses. We don't agree with what he said. It doesn't represent us as a box and a community, and da 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 da. And then the thing that I saw a lot, not everywhere, but a lot, that really bothered me, because I'm congruent with all of that, right? Our future is uncertain. Like, as a leader, as somebody who has chosen to sit in this seat, you don't get the luxury of uncertainty. Your people, your members, your community, your athletes, your coaches, your staff, you're the rock. You're supposed, whether it's true behind the scenes or not, your outward expression needs to be one of certainty. This is the decision that we're making, and we're moving forward with that thing. And where I found myself, we were already in the process of a strategic rebrand anyway, with moving from CrossFit PHX to Next Level Performance and Fitness Consulting.
Yeah.
We want, and as all the dominoes are falling, I'm looking at my wife. We're hanging out by the pool at my in-laws, and I'm like, this motherfucker ruined my surprise. And it was just crazy to me, So we pulled the trigger. We announced the rebrand.
Well, you're really fortunate because a lot of boxes are pulling away, and they're like, "Oh, we're just gonna rebrand." I was talking to my friend Marcus Gursey the other day.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Yeah, I've been advising people on rebrand, but you don't just pull one thing off the building and put another one up. It doesn't work that way." Like, and you said the word strategic rebrand, and most people just think it means changing the name. It's like, oh, if that's what you think a rebrand is, good luck. Good luck.
And it's not at all. So the that's where I felt like there was a perceivably failure of leadership in the words that were chosen, in the explanation whether to stay with CrossFit or not, using those words. It's extremely impactful, and I don't think people realize the power of those words coming from them as leaders of business and community. And as I've had conversations with you, with Aaron Hind, with Logan Gilbrick over at Deuce, Marcus Gursey.
Yep.
Like, the expectation of a leader is to lead. And we as individuals and a collective need to do that.
Yeah. Well, and if you don't, I mean, these are the times, right? So like, I saw a post recently. It was like, we are experiencing the fall of the influencer, those people who really don't have shit to say, no substance. They really don't know where they stand on anything. And most of what they're posting online is getting a lot of attraction because, well, the majority of our culture has been very, things have been good, and it's easy to be surface level when fucking, everyone's getting paid well, everything's going good, and, all the problems are being swept under the rug and all that. And we're having a good time. And then And then this all hits, COVID hits and
Mm-hmm.
people freak out. And I realized real quickly, it's like people just want to be told what to do. Oh,
Yeah.
that's when the leaders come in. The leaders when everything is good is one thing, but like
Yeah.
leadership got like I was excited about it, but I was like, oh, now's the actual time when a leader is needed. Being a
Yeah.
leader a year ago, that was just like, all right, I'm trying to get people to follow me. I got some good ideas.
Mm-hmm.
I think their life will get better, if they do these things. Now it's like
Mm-hmm.
people are fucking freaking out, man. And they're looking for somebody. Somebody's got to tell them, like,
Mm-hmm.
this is where we're going. Uh,
Yeah.
so if you're not, if it's one of those things, like, it's okay to not say shit right now and not lead, but don't expect for people to keep following you after the dust settles,
Yeah. I
because I
mean,
think there's a big differentiator here.
well, and I think that more importantly, and to your point, I think that like in reaction to Greg Glassman, we'll just stay here. The response, less is more, totally applies. Like to if I have to swipe left to see everything that you wrote, like it's too fucking much.
Yeah.
Like what do you everybody should know your principles. Everybody should know your core values, right? And understand if you've done it right, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you've done it right, they understand why you decided to do what you did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Because
Agreed.
they understand
The why.
your why, your
Yeah.
bigger
The
picture.
why is the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what people want to follow. They want to follow
Yeah.
the why, the intention.
Mm-hmm.
What's the bigger, there's so many whys. There's like,
Yeah.
what's the difference we're trying to make in the world? Okay, we're
Yeah.
running it through that filter. What does
Mm-hmm.
the company look like, or what does the organization look like in 5 years or 10
Right.
years? What do these things
Mm-hmm.
look like? That's why we're making decisions like we're making them. Or
Right.
what is it that we want our customers to experience, or how do we want our customers' lives to improve because of what we're doing? Yeah, these are
Right.
all things that, like, and the values. I mean, the vision is, in my opinion, vision is verbalized
Mm-hmm.
and values are demonstrated. And it's
100%.
it's great to have values and put them on the wall, or the team be able to recite the values of like your company. But fuck it, you follow the behavior of the
Mm-hmm.
people in the company. You look at the
Yeah.
behavior of like your customers.
Right.
That's a sign of leadership. If you're a great leader, then even your customers adopt your values,
Mm-hmm.
or just happen to share the values, and then you stand out as somebody's like, wow, they've got the same values as I do, and their
Yeah.
vision is really cool. I'm on board. Let's go do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. One of the parts of our strategic rebrand is the incorporation of this entity I used to have called 20 Percenters, and that's now the personal growth and development arm of Next Level. And in our leaders forum, we get together twice a month, and we solve problems for each other at an individual, tactical, and strategic level, and figure out where that impact is going to land. And as we're having this discussion, that was my challenge to those leaders is lead, be the exemplification of whatever your core values are. And by virtue of being in this room, having this discussion right here, right now, we share some commonality somewhere in that. And, when we reconvene next month or throughout the next 30 days, I want to hear about what you've done to be the example of the change that we're all discussing right now. Yeah.
Love it.
But like you said, man, this is the time for leaders to step up and fucking lead. This is like, it sucks. It's hard. It's challenging for everybody on a lot of levels, but you got to lean into that, and simply just be decisive. And I think that's a lot of what I I see missing. What, right or wrong, who gives a shit? That's kind of opinion at this point.
Yeah.
But like decisiveness is huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one thing I've witnessed with I actually went out of my way, like when COVID-19 hit, I go, okay,
Mm-hmm.
box owners need a lot of help right now
Yeah.
because a lot of gym owners definitely were going through some suffering. And I
Yep.
had gym owners that I work with that actually grew their membership even though they couldn't open their gym.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and for some of them it was really easy and some of them it was very difficult.
Yeah.
And what I noticed for those who were even able to improve their business when they couldn't even open their physical gym, but they were getting them
Mm-hmm.
online,
Yeah.
is they were already tuned into building relationships with their clients.
Mm-hmm.
They had leadership.
Yeah.
Really, they had leadership and they had relationships, and those who were not practicing leadership very well
Yeah.
suffered a lot. And so, um, what do you obviously? I mean, some gyms started selling their equipment a week after COVID hit, and I was like, "This is
Mm-hmm.
my opportunity to get out." So we have
Sure.
a reduction in the total gyms are going to be open. 24 Hour Fitness went bankrupt, I think. I don't know if
Uh,
they'll, or that there
I
was
think,
rumor of it.
yeah, they're sorting it out.
Oh,
I
there's.
don't know if that's I don't know if that's been declared just yet.
By the way, you can bankrupt a bit. I mean, whether they did or not, you can
Yeah.
bankrupt
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
business and still operate.
Right.
Uh, Gold's Gym shut down
Mm-hmm.
those
I did
franchises.
see that. Yeah.
So like this isn't just a CrossFit problem. This isn't just
No.
like
Mm-hmm.
CrossFit boxes are shutting down.
Yeah.
Now CrossFit boxes tend to more CrossFit gym owners tend to live month to month than
Mm-hmm.
probably 24 or Golds. Maybe
Yeah.
could be wrong, but it is a smaller business. They're doing less revenue.
Sure.
Uh,
What?
so like, what? Where do you stand in all this? And are people are jumping ship? Do you think, or what do you
Mm-hmm.
think is going to happen as we shake out of this?
I think CrossFit's going to be just fine. I think where CrossFit is. I don't know at what level, but you'd know better than I would on the business end. But at some point, your name can become so universal that like it becomes common language, right? Band-Aid,
Yep.
Kleenex, Xerox,
Yep.
right? I feel like CrossFit's kind of getting there in terms of the style of training. So, if people jump ship and abandon the CrossFit brand, they're still going to CrossFit.
Yeah.
Right. So I think
Right.
CrossFit is going to be just fine. Arose by any other name, right? And I'm just thankful for all of my members that are tuned in right now, because I've done a really shitty job as a leader in expressing my just outward gratitude to their willingness to just stay with us through quarantine and beyond. And I'm so thankful for the foundation that we've built as a community, because that was the lifeblood while we were closed. We did the things. We went online and started doing the quarantine Zoom workouts and checking equipment and doing all the stuff, right? Checking all the boxes. But what it comes down to is the community's willingness to stay on board with us through all of this. Now in my personal opinion, if we had gone one more month, I would have had to make some very strategic decisions. But like that to me was a very telling sign of what a good job we've done in building a community, a brand, and really a family. Like I had people throughout quarantine reaching out to me, what kind of help do you need? Is there anything that I can do? They were expressing appreciation to me for, the efforts that we had gone through to keep this thing alive and going. And, I want to take a quick minute to express to them how much I appreciate all of that, because it ultimately, it doesn't matter what the fuck I do. If they're not on board, if they're not bought in, there is no next level. There is no CrossFit PHX. None of that exists without the tribe. So, it's the relationships that we've built, that my coaches have built with our community, that our community has built amongst each other. That's why, the conversation that's going to take place tonight at our town hall meeting, is going to be so special, because it is indeed a safe place where these people who have bought into our core values and everything that we represent as an institution can have that open dialogue and make some progress, make some headway in a positive direction.
Yeah. Beautiful. You're setting the example of good leadership. Appreciate that.
I appreciate you, man.
What else? Anything else you want to leave people with before we roll?
Wow.
We covered some bases.
No, man, I honestly think that, I commend you for using your platform to open this conversation, because it doesn't have to be one that's argumentative. It doesn't have to be one that is toxic by any means, my way or the highway, one-sided. And at the same time, I think that you do a really good job of acknowledging all sides of the scenario. And I think that that's what we need more of, as opposed to being on one side of the fence or the other and creating a platform that subscribes to confirmation bias, right? So I just appreciate the opportunity to have the conversation with you. And, hopefully your audience and your listeners get something out of it. And, I've provided some perspective or a higher level of awareness as a result.
Oh yeah. Well, I learned some stuff here. Thank you. Thank you for teaching me. Thank you for teaching us. Where can people find more of you? You've done some cool stuff. You've got a book. You've done all sorts of things that I think people would be interested in, even if they're not in Phoenix.
Sure. You can find my book, Inner Circle, Focus and Fulfillment Habits of the Enlightened, on Amazon. You can find me by authors, probably the easiest way to find me. Find the book, Mycal, Anders, Anders. And then you can follow me at Coach Durs, and you can follow my tribe at nextlevel_PHX.
Excellent. Thanks for joining us today. Love you, brother.
I appreciate you, brother. Love you too, man.